Hello, students! Welcome to Mr. Sandwich Reads. I am, believe it or not, Mr. Sandwich. And I told you a few passages ago that if you kept following along, maybe I'd be wearing a wig one of these days just to keep the glare off my head. Um, so here I am. I'm gonna read in a wig. I hope that's not too distracting. Please let me know in the comments. Is the wig distracting, or are you just kind of like hitting play and um, I always recommend try not to like do something else online. Try not to open another tab. That's going to impact reading comprehension. I know it's hard to take me serious as I'm fixing my fake hair. That's going to impact like if you're trying to play a game, something else that requires brain capacity. I'll put on an audiobook or podcast and like fold laundry, wash dishes, something that's kind of a mindless activity that I have to do, like a chore, an errand, ironing. Don't go too mindless when you're ironing because you don't want to burn anything. Same thing with cooking, but um, best when you're listening and you need that listening comprehension to focus. I really recommend to build fluency to become a quicker, smoother reader to follow along with the words. All right. The last we left off, it said, well, I'll just read the last paragraph. That's where I tried to keep it on them. This is talking about he wants the group is pressuring him and Stargirl to change because they're being shunned. I didn't mention myself and how he felt. I didn't say do it for me. I didn't say if you don't change you can forget about me. I never said that. 2 days later, Stargirl vanished. We're gonna find out um, what happened to Stargirl. All right, this is chapter 26. We are getting to the end here, so I'm wearing a wig to make sure you're still with me. You're still engaged here. But I think there's plenty to be engaged about because this book, I'm gonna miss reading this. I really like reading in the voice of Leo about Stargirl. If you are interested, and I'll mention it again, there is. Well, no, never mind. No spoilers. 26, chapter 26, page 139. Usually, I saw her in the courtyard before school, but that day I didn't. Usually, I passed her between classes at least once or twice before lunch. Not that day. In fact, when I looked over to her table at lunch, there was Dory Dilson as usual, but someone else was sitting with her. No Stargirl in sight. Coming out of the lunchroom, I heard laughter behind me. And then a voice. Stargirl's. What do you have to do to get somebody's attention around here? I turned, but it wasn't her. The girl standing grinning in front of me wore jeans and sandals, had burnt red nails and lipstick, painted eyes, finger rings, toe rings, hoop earrings I could put my hand through. Hair! I gawked as students swarmed past. She made a clownish grin. She was beginning to look vaguely familiar. Tentatively, I whispered, Stargirl? She batted her chocolatey eyelashes. Stargirl? What kind of name is that? My name is Susan. And just like that, Stargirl was gone, replaced by Susan. Susan Julia Caraway. The girl she might have been all along. So here, what do we find out based on the last chapter when Leo says 2 days later Stargirl vanished? What does he mean? Did she go missing? No. Has she dumped the Stargirl persona or identity? Yeah. Now she's just average fitting in Susan. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She cradled her books in her arms. The sunflower canvas bag was gone. The rat was gone. The ukulele was gone. She turned around slowly for my open mouth, dumbstruck inspection. Nothing goofy, nothing different could I see. She looked magnificently, wonderfully, gloriously ordinary. She looked just like 100 other girls at Micah High. Stargirl had vanished into a sea of them, and I was thrilled. She slid a stick of chewing gum into her mouth and chewed away noisily. She winked at me. She reached out and tweaked my cheek the way my grandmother would and said, "What's up, cutie?" I grabbed her right there outside the lunchroom in the swarming mob. I didn't care if others were watching. In fact, I hoped they were. I grabbed her and squeezed her. I had never been so happy and so proud in my life. We sailed through time. We held hands in the hallways, on the stairs, in the courtyard. In the lunchroom, I grabbed her and pulled her over to our table. I looked to invite Dory Dilson too, but she was gone. I sat there grinning while Kevin and Susan gabbed and gossiped over their sandwiches. They joked about her disastrous appearance on Hot Seat. Susan suggested that I should go on Hot Seat one of these days, and Kevin said no, he's too shy. And I said not anymore, and we all laughed. Hmm. My son can't believe I'm wearing a wig. He keeps popping in and out. Let's see. I sat there grinning while Kevin and Susan gabbed and gossiped over their sandwiches. They joked about her disastrous appearance on the hot seat. Susan suggested that I should go on hot seat. All right, bud, can you go play? Let's see. He was too shy. I said not anymore. And we all laughed. And it was true. I didn't walk. I strutted. I was Susan Caraway's boyfriend. Me. Really? That Susan Caraway? The one with the tiny barrette and toe rings? Yep, that's the one. My girlfriend. Call me Mr. Susan. I started saying we instead of I, as in we'll meet you there or we like fajitas. Whenever I could, I said her name out loud like blowing bubbles. The rest of the time, I said it to myself. Susan. Susan. We did our homework together. We hung out with Kevin. Instead of following strangers around, we went to the movies and plunged our hands together into the $6 super tub of popcorn. Instead of shopping for African violets, we shopped, for Cinnabons and licked icing from each other's fingers. We went into pizza. We walked past the bulletin board inside the door. We shared a pizza, half pepperoni, half anchovies. Anchovies, ugh, I said. What's wrong with anchovies? She said. How can you eat them? Nobody eats anchovies. I was sort of kidding, but her face was serious. Nobody? Nobody I know. She picked the anchovies from her slices and dumped them into her water glass. I tried to stop her. Hey! So here she's like doing everything he says nobody. When he speaks generally about what people, them, the society does, she's going along with every norm that Leo's kind of set here. Nobody I know. She picked up the anchovies from her slices and dumped them into her water glasses. I tried to stop her. Hey! She pushed my hand away. She dropped the last anchovy into the glass. I don't want to be like nobody. On the way out, she ignored the bulletin board. She was mad for shopping. It was as if she had just discovered clothes. She bought shirts and pants and shorts and costume jewelry and makeup. I began to notice that the items of clothing had one thing in common. They all had the designers' names plastered prominently on them. She seemed to buy not for color or style, but for designer label size. She constantly quizzed me about what other kids would do, would buy, would say, would think. She invented a fictitious, which is like fictional. She invented a fictitious person whom she called Evelyn Everybody. Would Evelyn like this? Would Evelyn do that? Sometimes she misfired as with laughing. For several days, she was on a laughing jag. She didn't just laugh, she boomed. Heads turned in the lunchroom. I was trying to work up the nerve to say something when she looked at Kevin and me and said, Would Evelyn laugh this much? Kevin stared at his sandwich. I sheepishly shook my head. The laughing stopped, and from that moment on, she did a perfect imitation of a sullen, pouted-lipped teenager. In every way, she seemed to be a typical, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill teenager. And it wasn't working. At first, I neither noticed nor much cared that the shunning continued. I was too busy being happy that she was, as I saw it, now one of us. My only regret was that we could not play the basketball season over again. In my mind's eye, I pictured her aiming her incredible zeal and energy exclusively at the electrons. We could have won games on her cheering alone. It was she who said it first, they still don't like me. We were standing outside the TV studio after school. As usual, people were passing by as if we weren't there. Her lip quivered. What am I doing wrong? Tears made her eyes even larger. All right, she's getting upset. This is getting serious. So I'm going to lose my hair here again. Uh, just set that aside because I want to set the tone. I will keep the glare off with my hat though. So hopefully that's not distracting. All right. It was she who said at first, "They still don't like me." She was standing outside the TV studio after school. As usual, people were passing by as if we weren't there. Her lip quivered. What am I doing wrong? Tears made her eyes even larger. I squeezed her hand. I told her to give it some time. I pointed out that the state basketball finals would take place in Phoenix that Saturday, and that would end the season and clear the way for her cheerleading crimes to be forgotten. Her mascara was muddy. I had seen her sad many times before, but always for someone else. This was different. This was for herself, and I was powerless to help. I could not find it in me to cheer up the cheerleader. That night, we did homework together at her house. I ducked into her room to check out her happy wagon. There were only 2 stones in it. Only 2 stones. Remember, the happy wagon had 20 stones. I think she reached 18 the night that her and Leo were um, really showing signs of love. And now she's at 2, and she's as Susan. What do you think that means? Let's see. Mascara was muddy. Couldn't cheer up the cheerleader. There were only 2 stones. When I came to school next day, I think there's a typo there. When I came to school the next day, there was something different about the buzz in the courtyard. The arriving students were milling about, some roaming at random, some in clusters, but as I approached, there seemed to be a distinct clearing around the palmetto. I wandered in that direction, and through the crowd, I could see that someone, Susan, was seated on the bench. She sat upright and smiling. She was holding a foot-long stick shaped like a claw on one end. Around her neck, dangling on a string, was a sign that read, "Talk to me or I'll scratch your back." Boy, that is a cry for attention. Uh, she was getting no takers. No one was within 20 feet of her. Quickly, I turned away. I walked back through the crowd. I pretended I was looking for someone. I pretended I hadn't seen and prayed for the bell to ring. When I saw her later that morning, the sign was gone. She said nothing about it, neither did I. Next morning, she came running at me in the courtyard. Her eyes were bright for the first time in days. She grabbed me with both hands and shook me. "It's going to be okay. It's going to end. I had a vision." She told me about it. She had gone to her enchanted place after dinner the day before, and that's where the vision had come to her. She had seen herself returning in triumph from the Arizona State Oratorical Contest. She had won first prize, best in the state. When she returned, she got a hero's welcome. The whole school greeted her in the parking lot, just like in the assembly film. There were streamers and confetti and tooting kazoos and horns blaring. And the mayor and city council were on hand, and they had a parade right then and there, and she rode high on the back seat of a convertible and held her winner's silver plate up for all to see, and the happy faces of her classmates flashing in the sparkling trophy. She told me this, and she threw up her arms and shouted, "I'm going to be popular!" The state contest was a week away. Every day she practiced her speech. One day she called over little Peter Sinkowitz and his playmates and presented the speech to us from her front steps. We applauded and whistled. She bowed grandly, and I too began to see her vision. I saw the streamers flying, and I heard the crowd cheering, and I believed. All right, so let's keep following along. I will post 27 shortly. In chapter 26 here, we see Stargirl has disappeared and given way to just ordinary Susan. That doesn't work for her though. Why don't you think that works? Is it the basketball season? The "talk to me and I'll scratch your back" seems like a desperate cry for attention, not likely to work among teenagers. Um, so I don't know. What do you think? She has this vision, the oratorical contest. That's when people will come around. Leo's starting to see that. So it's a week away. Well, let's keep going, keep reading, and find out what happens at the oratorical contest. Will Susan win? Will she remain Susan? Will she get the grand applause that she's envisioning? follow along and let me know what you think. Give me comments with any suggestions. I've added some music to some of the readings of Stargirls, usually when they're being shunned, kind of give it that feeling, that eerie feeling of aloneness. So let me know what you think. Please follow along and please feel free to share, tell friends and family. Mr. Sandwich reads, and look for the chimp reading the paper. All right, take care. Peace.